I'm going to introduce you, Alice, if I may.
Yeah, you do.
I was checking in the LSE library catalogue and noticed that you had 22 books cited in the catalogue, and that's not your entire output, actually. There's books they don't have. And I think that is just a shorthand evidence of your long and distinguished career. And you're a very good subject to interview for the Economic History Society, because you have numerous interests of interest to economic historians, ranging from cartels, international finance capitalism, to the impact of multinational enterprises, and something that's very topical today, the role of banking. Both in industry and in the economy, and also latterly issues of economic integration and nationality. And you were born in Vienna and trained in the United Kingdom.
Right.
And then you've had 4 careers. I'm going to say you had 4 careers. You had a career in Charles University in Prague. It's your first career. Your second one, when you went to America as well as the UK, but I always associate with Girton College, Cambridge. Then your third career was at the University of East Anglia. And your fourth career, probably the most prominent, I would have said, because if you look at your select bibliography, most of your books were written after you'd formally retired as a result of your work with me at the London School of Economics, which I'm very grateful for, notably at Vienna, but also at other places too, like Uppsala, Budapest, etc. So I would say you've had 4 careers.
Well, I'm very grateful for the fourth career, particularly because I never, as you know, wanted to retire, and you gave me a chance to say, "Well, come and work with me in the LSE." You see, and the Business History Unit was a wonderful place to do research.
Well, thank you.
And to get grants for conferences and so on.
Well, shall we start at the beginning? And the first question would be, how and when did you become an economic historian?
Well, this is a rather difficult question because I didn't have a smooth, continuous schooling. Since my father went bankrupt in the big crisis of 1929-30, and I was just had a place at the secondary school, you would call it, this gymnasium that was. They couldn't afford even the tram for me to go to the school, or to have the equipment for geometry and so on. So I never went to a gymnasium. I went to the ordinary sort of, it's 8 years of schooling, and with 14 years I began work as an apprentice at the time when there was great unemployment, as an apprentice in a textile business. Going down the drain also, you see. But the great thing for me, and I always wanted to study and always wanted to go to school, there was a weekly apprenticeship schooling, one day a week. And there we learned accounting, typing, shorthand. This put me sort of for trade and business. So I got interested in these fields, but not thinking of studying because I didn't have any university. But I then. When there was the Anschluss and my family and I too came to England as a refugee, I started work here, and went to evening school and did university entrance.
Where were you?
London University.
Where were you? You were in London then?
No, in Exeter, where my father got a job as a watchmaker.
Ah.
You see, at that time, you got a visa to come to England only if there was if there was no unemployment in that field, and they wanted people.
Right.
Now they wanted cooks, maids, and we found out watchmakers. You see, so I came here as a servant. My mother as a cook and my father as a watchmaker. And the family met again in Exeter, and this is where we met in 1940 with
Where you met Nicholas,
Yes.
yes.
But in the evening school I went in Nottingham, because this is also a history of Britain in the war. After Dunkirk,
Yes.
you see, all enemy aliens, and Austrians were enemy aliens, had to move inland from an area 20 miles from the coast. And unfortunately for us, we had just started again as a family, getting together. We had to leave within 48 hours to go to the Midlands, you see. And this is how I ended up in Nottingham. Because I finally got a job and got permit to work as a typist in a fashion shop.
Ah.
Yeah, and the man who employed me, Mr. Ryle, wrote to Nottingham because he wanted me to have a job.
Yes.
And he got material, textile material from Nottingham. There were a lot of textile factories. Right. And I was called Schwarz, which means black. He couldn't pronounce my name, so he called me Blackie. And he sent a telegram to this Nottingham firm and said, "I'm sending you Blackie by train, give her a job." And I got a job immediately, the only one in the family, in the Midlands, away from the... And then Nicholas came to join me, and this is how in Nottingham I went to evening classes to do university entrance. And this is how I then got a scholarship to Leeds University, you see.
And then you did your undergraduate
undergraduate studies,
there.
and this is what you asked here.
I did, yes. I wanted...
yes, so perhaps it was obvious that I was interested in accounting, in business, in the economy, and I did want to study economics.
Well, in a way, we ought to talk about what kind of studies you had at Leeds, and who taught you.
Well, I did what they had general studies in the first year, but then I did economics. You see. The general studies was English, history.
Yes.
And I took German as well, because that was easy for me, because you had to have a foreign language, you see. And my teacher was very upset that I took German in her class, and she thought that my German was dreadful because I had an Austrian accent. All right. So, but coming back to economics, the greatest influence was H.D. Dickinson.
Ah, right.
And H.D. Dickinson was very inspiring. He was an expert and enthusiastic in economics and history of economic thought and history of economics.
Right.
And I went all to everything he did. And he did studies in capital, in investment and finance, and he influenced the direction of my interest. Also, he thought I ought to be doing research, and he thought I ought to be doing research in economic history and philosophy, you see. But in the end, I had to join, I did join Mikulas in Prague, so that I didn't go on with graduate studies.
You didn't do graduate studies in the UK?
I could have done.
Yes.
Because they wanted me to stay and carry on.
But by this time the war had ended, presumably.
Yes.
And Mikulas went to
Prague. Mikulas went to Prague in 1946, you see. But because we had already our Peter, the first child, so I stayed with him, and Mikulas had no flat or no home in Prague. He had a rented room and had to try and sort of build a life there. You see. And I did join him then in Prague for the summer with Peter, but then we came back and we had another child, Eva. So I joined him in Prague in 1949, really. But I started sort of immediately learning Czech because of 47 I came there, didn't know any. And by 1949-50, I had enough Czech to think about working, you see.
So you moved to Prague with your two children and husband, and around 19, and you had to learn Czech pretty quickly, which is quite daunting.
Very quickly, yes, very quickly.
And then you got your first job in the university in 1950,
Yes, 1950 I started the academic year, September, October. And because my Czech wasn't very good, and it's a marvelous thing that they took me, you see. Because first of all, I was the first woman and foreigner, certainly in that department. There were women at...
Which department was it?
It was the Department of History at the Pedagogical Faculty of Charles University, you see. And because I started some teaching, so I taught students who were studying English and economics. English and history, sorry, not economics. English and history. It's because I could teach them in English, and I didn't have to speak Czech immediately. You see, and this eased me in.
Yes.
And
these were undergraduates that you were teaching.
They were undergraduates. Yes, they had their English courses, and they were very happy to have an economics course. At that time, I started teaching medieval economic history. I was very fond of that.
Yes.
And it was also my first publication there, a scriptum for the students in medieval economic history.
Right, so
this is the law of the land, and the duties
system.
of the peasants, and so on.
Bullion, gold, presumably, and silver, and...
Yeah, but I didn't do very much about the money. I did more about the agriculture and the serfdom question, because in England there was very soon the free peasantry from the 14th century onwards emerged.
But not so in Eastern
Europe. No,
Europe.
not so at all. Quite different. In any case, we are now in Prague. Yes. Now my problem then was that economic history was not a how would you call this? A discipline in the register of the university 4 degrees.
What at the time when you were in Prague observing this, that it wasn't a recognized
Yeah,
discipline?
but when I wanted to put on a course,
it was difficult.
they did not want me to do it, but the students were very interested, and although they could not do an exam in it, they came, and I taught it.
But why couldn't it be just considered part of history, for example?
Well, it was, because also when I did my dissertation for readership,
Yes.
it was an economic history dissertation. But it was not actually also I did a history dissertation for my PhD, didn't I, in Prague?
History.
That was history.
Yes, yes.
But for the readership, it was foreign investment in Czechoslovakia.
Which is economic
yeah,
history.
it was economic history. But they would not give me an economic history readership.
No,
it
no.
was a history
Yes,
readership. You see. But anyway, I taught students. And they were so interested that we formed circles, study circles with students. That was in the 1950s, in the second half of the 1950s, going on 57, 58, 59, towards the... And these students were so interested, and I started work at that time on cartels, you see.
Ah, right.
And I got interested in international cartels and found an enormous archive in Prague.
Right.
Because cartels were illegal, you see, and
Supposed to
they
be.
were yes, and there was such a lot of material, and the students were interested with me. And they, in these circles, they entered a competition, student scientific work competition, student research work competition. And imagine 3 students won first prize.
Oh, that's excellent.
That was because they had this original material and were able to discuss it and write about it, and but it was not recognized by Charles University as a subject. You see.
No, whereas I suppose if we contrast that with the more mainstream economic history society operation in the West, this was the period when departments were being formed in the UK,
That's
like
right.
Leicester and Exeter and Glasgow, of course, in 1957.
That would be after the war.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah,
oh
because
yes.
we celebrated the anniversary of what was it, 50 years?
Well, there was the
You
50th
remember?
anniversary of the Glasgow department.
Departments. Departments, not the
Oh
society.
no! I mean, the economic history department at LSE was much older and was quite a rarity, both for employing women, as you mentioned, like Eileen Powell, for example, but because elsewhere you found economic historians in a variety of different departments, sometimes in local history, sometimes in industrial archaeology. But just when your students were showing that enthusiasm, which you were encouraging them to do, in the West we were beginning to try and institutionalize economic history.
It was 58, 59.
Yeah, because students were interested in it. At that stage, I think there was a great interest among students in understanding how the economy worked and the social impact of economic affairs.
Yeah, that's right.
And a certain, how could I say, sort of disappointment with the models of economics, which didn't seem to always quite square with the real world.
Yeah. At that time, it wasn't as mathematical as it became later.
No, it was even worse when it became
and
more
when
mathematical.
it became later worse, the interest declined.
That's right. That's right. Now, you were in Charles University, Prague.
Yes.
And I was wanting to ask you about your links with the West while you were still in Prague in the 50s and 60s. Because you've told me that you went to the very first International Congress in Economic History, which was held in Bloomington, Indiana.
Yes, that was 68.
Yes,
But
prior
before
to that,
we have both of us had had contacts to the West. We were not completely sort of divorced
No.
from the West, and of course we could read publications, and the point there is that you in the 60s, and particularly after 62, 63, there was this sort of thaw.
Yes.
And particularly it was the period in Prague or in Czechoslovakia that was the beginning of leading to the Prague Spring, you know,
Yes,
in
yes.
1968, which ended very terribly. But still, it was a long period of easing.
Yes.
And of more freedom of thought, of publishing, of having contacts with the West.
And did economic historians visit Charles University from the West?
Yes,
Oh, Klima, yes.
I did make notes on this. You see, Arnošt Klima, at the beginning of the 60s, the International Economic History Society was founded.
Yes, that's right.
And that was at a conference in Sweden.
Yes, because
Yeah.
I got it wrong. Bloomington wasn't the first one.
No.
I think there was one in Munich.
There was
And there was one in Stockholm,
yeah,
perhaps, was the first
Stockholm
one.
was the first.
Yes,
yeah.
in 1960,
Yeah.
I imagine, I
So,
think.
yeah, and Klima, the Czech representative, was elected
Yes.
to the committee.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And when he came back, he founded in Prague a committee of a circle of economic historians, and I joined that. Yeah, we were very great friends and colleagues. I was in the same department as Arnošt Klima, and we met regularly, and naturally we also encouraged publication and connection with Western economic historians, you see.
Right.
Professor Troye was the one who came up to me in 65 in Munich, and he wanted to be in touch. And he invited me and particularly Nicholas then to attend the conference in the history of science in Germany, in West Germany
Right.
at the time. And I managed to invite these people back to Prague.
To Prague,
And
right.
at that time, it was a great thing to be invited to Prague,
Oh, yes.
because there was very little
There were
contact
few visitors, I would
with
have
communist
thought, at that time.
countries. you
Yes,
see.
yes.
And I was also, at that time, very active in school book production.
Oh, right.
Yes, because I was at the pedagogical faculty
Yes.
of Charles University. And after the war, although this was already in the 60s, but in the 50s, there was a great lack of teachers, because under German occupation, all Czech schools were closed. I'm sorry, not schools. Sorry, yes, good that you are here.
I mean,
All
teachings,
Czech, yes, all Czech universities and pedagogical institutions were closed. If one wanted to be a teacher, one had to go to the German
Yes.
It was the German university. The point is, I was asked to help in organizing this.
Yes.
And I organized the historians of other universities to work in teaching.
Yes.
In these
evening classes. And
well, there were summer schools and
right.
evening classes. And
Yes.
sometimes the teachers came to the university for lecture courses
in a
and
kind
so
of
on.
accelerated
and
program to get.
it was on a national scale. And so I got this contact, and also it was very important to produce school books.
Yes.
That is university, sorry,
Textbooks.
University textbooks. And we produced really textbooks for Czechoslovak history and also European history, general history. And the funny part about it is when after the collapse of the communist system, we came in 1990. We were invited to come back, you know, and talk to our colleagues who wanted to apologize to us. I found that although both of our publications were on the register, the prohibited literature,
Yes.
these school books, because my name was in it, you see, because being the main publisher of them, they told me that they were circulating because there were no other school books. They were falling to bits already because they were not reproduced. But that was, and in this period, I also joined the International School Book Organization. This is why I wanted to tell you about this. There was a school book institute in Germany, and we have forgotten the name, both of us, of the head of this institution. But I invited him too to come to Prague. You see, this is how I got to the story. Sorry. Arnošt Klima, who was a member of the International Economic History Committee, was involved in organizing and getting together the speakers for Bloomington.
Right.
Bloomington, 1968, was the International Congress of Economic History. And he asked both of us, he asked me whether I could join the session, which was chaired by Peter Matthias. And that was very important for my whole life here, actually, afterwards.
Peter was at Oxford then, presumably?
No, Peter was still
here?
at Cambridge because I was here, we were here, as Nicholas said, 67, just before Christmas. It wasn't it? Around Christmas. We were here.
67.
Yes.
Before Christmas.
Yeah, and he wanted to talk to me about the paper, and he then came to London to talk to me about the program that he was putting together. You see, so I got to know him already in '67, and in '68 we had all our. I won't tell you the whole story, but the point is, we got our visa to the United States, and for people from communist countries that was very difficult. We had to have an interview with the ambassador, not ambassador, at the embassy, at the American embassy, and in the end we did get the visa, but both of us refused to sign whether we were members of the Communist Party or not, because we said this is a private matter. This has nothing to do with. So we said, all right. We did get the visa.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll tell you this story some other day.
So you went to Bloomington?
Well,
Oh,
wait
no.
a minute.
Right.
Yeah, we did go in the end to Bloomington.
But
But we were supposed to fly from Prague to to Paris first. You had something in Paris.
There was an
International history of science. So we were to fly to Paris and from Paris to Bloomington. Bloomington was somewhat later, yes. And our plane was to go on the 20th,
No,
on the 21st,
on the 23rd.
on the 23rd, yeah. Yeah, on the 23rd. It's important.
Right.
Yeah, it's on the 23rd. And that was sort of the height of the Prague Spring.
yes.
We were very involved in, as much as we could, in this reform movement inside the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia, trying to have a more democratic system and so on. We had on the 19th of August, I handed in the manuscript of my book on the investment, on foreign investment in Czechoslovakia at the Czechoslovak Academy of Sciences press.
Right.
They were to do it, you see.
Right.
And on the 20th, no, and they came for our suitcases, didn't they? We had a box to be sent to America. Before we were supposed to leave,
Yes. The troops.
the troops
came in.
invaded.
Yes.
You see, and there we were.
You were still in Prague.
We were still in Prague. All the airports were taken over by the
Soviet,
Soviet
Yeah.
and the Warsaw Pact troops
Yes.
and the Warsaw Pact Air Force. And there was no other way than perhaps go out by train. And we found out that at that time there was an international congress of
Geology.
geologists in
Yeah.
Prague,
Right.
and they were stuck there, you see.
Right.
So they had to fit out the train to get these people out.
Yes.
And to cut a long story short, we got onto this train.
Really?
And we got out with our passports, with our suitcases. Before the Russians and the Warsaw Pact troops had taken over the frontier post of the place. They had already all the roads.
Was this into Austria?
That was into Germany.
Into Germany.
Into
right. Yes.
we came into Munich.
Right.
Didn't we? No, where did we get to? Nuremberg. Nuremberg. Ah, yes, because... Why did we go to Nuremberg?
Well,
Because the train went to Nuremberg. Yeah.
So
I
you
didn't
were on
think
this.
that was-
You were on this geologist's special train,
Yes.
and you're now in Germany.
And we were now in
You're a
Germany.
long way from Bloomington, of course.
Yes, that's right. But we had to go to Paris
First,
anyway.
Yes.
And we then managed, they recognized our air tickets, although they were Czechoslovak Airlines.
Yes. Yes.
And we went then from where did we go? From Nuremberg.
Yes.
We flew to Paris, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And then now you're in the West. And,
Now we're in the West.
But you haven't thought that you weren't coming back, presumably.
Well, it's another story. I thought the troops would move out and will come back.
Yes. Yeah.
But as we walked from our house down to the tram to get into Prague, to get to the railway station, Mikola said, "We're not coming back. This is
Really?
this
Yeah.
is the end." You see. He was sure that they wouldn't They wouldn't leave us, wouldn't leave and leave us go on with our reform movement. You see. We spent the year in America making really great contacts. Nicholas in history of science, I in economic history, and we were invited to, at that time there was still money around, and they invited us to, I don't know whether you know the book by Steinbeck, Travels with Charlie.
Yes, yeah.
Well, that's where we were everywhere where he was with Travels with Charlie. But we flew, we didn't drive. Almost everywhere.
Not Maine.
Not Maine.
So who did you meet? Which economic historian? You met some American economic
Well,
historians?
we certainly met Feldman.
No, Jerry Feldman.
Yeah, because he was very interested in us and in me in Bloomington, and he was a very young assistant at that time.
Yes.
But he was fascinated by our story, you see, and he invited us to California, and this started a sort of a friendship and a relationship in economic history that was
Because
very.
he was
he
interested
then-
in banking.
Yeah,
and
in banking,
finance.
and he organized then together with the German economic historians the research project on international inflation. You see.
Right.
And
yes.
he asked me to come
To
and
contribute.
work with them on Central and Eastern Europe, because they had not got anyone for that, you see. And I worked with them for a number of years, getting contacts to the German and then the German economic historians. Yes, Nicholas got a letter from his from distinguished
Yes.
Historians of science, and that was Rupert Hall and the Oxford. No, Rupert Hall. Yes, saying that his colleagues in England are concerned about him, and if he needed to discuss his future, or if he needed they offer him
Yes.
1 year in Cambridge at King's College,
yes.
to be followed by 2 years in Oxford as a research fellow here.
Yes. Yeah.
And invited us to come to Cambridge to discuss these things.
Could you explain your formal institutional involvement in Cambridge when you came with Nicholas?
Bob Young,
Bob Young.
who was a fellow of King's College and was very helpful with Nicholas, thought that I should also get a fellowship. And at that time, there was a so-called university college, which was founded by 3 colleges. The founders were King's and possibly, I don't know, Trinity, or 3 colleges. And this university college became later what is Wolfson College.
Right,
yeah.
right, yes.
So I got a fellowship
There.
at this university college, and whilst at this college, our daughter was studying at Girton College, and I met in January *69. I went to visit Girton College and talked to Muriel Bradbrook, who was a fellow of Girton, and she suggested that I could join Girton College.
Ah, that was excellent.
And at the same time, there was a college here that was for a women's college of postgraduate women who later in their life studied, and forgotten the name of that college.
Cavendish.
Cavendish College.
It is called.
It's still called Cavendish College, you see.
Yes. And what did you have a link with Cavendish? Then,
Yes,
as well?
well, there was also a proposition that I join Cavendish College, you see. But Muriel Bradbrook thought for me it would be better to be in Girton, which she was probably right. And I was interviewed in Girton, and they then offered me a visiting fellowship. For a
Visiting by fellow.
visiting by fellowship, yeah. And she thought that was better for me
Right.
to join Girton College, and
you
she
did.
was, of
And
course,
you
quite
did.
right. Yes.
Right. And it was during this period that you began
Yeah.
working up the manuscript for your
Yeah.
most important
But I
book.
ought to say something about the University of East Anglia now.
Yes. Yes.
Because, you see, my people who supported me here in Cambridge were, first of all, Peter Matthias,
Yes.
and secondly, and also very sort of forcefully, Michael Postan,
Oh yes.
Munya.
Yes.
You see. Now, Postan said to me, you can't teach Eastern European and Central European history. Nobody's interested here. You must go and teach British history. You see, now that you're in Girton, you teach British history. But Muriel Bradbrook wasn't that so convinced that I ought to teach British history, but I did teach in Girton. You asked
Yes, I did.
what I did there.
Yes, I did.
I did teach the students European history.
Yes.
You see, European and some British. You simply had to teach. I didn't know that
Yes.
you teach everything
Yes,
as a
yes.
teaching fellow.
Yes,
you
indeed,
know.
indeed.
And you go according to the questions that are
Yes.
at the finals or at
That's right.
the
You follow
first.
the curriculum.
Yeah, you follow the curriculum, and in that sense, of course, you are sort of locked into the system. You
Yes.
see.
Yes, indeed.
But when I joined Girton, I put on a lecture, and you, as a visiting fellow or as a by fellow, you can put on a lecture in the university on a subject that you see whether anyone comes.
Yes,
You
yes.
see. And I was very much supported by Muriel Bradbrook, the mistress of Girton, for this. And imagine, about 25 people came to the first lecture, and 20 stayed the term.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes, very.
Very
heartening.
often they collapse
Yes.
after 2 or 3 times.
Right,
Nobody
but
comes
you had
anymore.
a loyal group.
And I had this group, and Muriel Bradbrook loyally came to a number of these
Really?
lectures,
Yeah,
you
that's
see.
lovely. Yeah.
Peter Matthias
Right.
talked to Richard Wilson
Oh, right.
and said to him, you are looking for a lecturer,
Yes.
and there is Alice, you
Right.
see.
Yes, we needed to strengthen European history, which
Yeah,
was
and she says, there's Alice. Well, why don't you ask her to apply for it, you see.
right.
And so I met Richard Wilson there, and Richard asked me to apply for that post due to the intervention of Peter Matthias. That's what I wanted to tell you.
Excellent.
And this is our Economic History Society right from the beginning.
It was very important.
Was important, like Bloomington,
Yes.
Peter Matthias, and then here.
And now, you coming to the University of East Anglia.
And I did get the job.
You did, indeed. By which time I'd gone there, because I was in Glasgow in 1970.
You were still in Glasgow.
I was still in Glasgow, and I moved in 1971.
And it was said, all right, I get the post. I start in 71, and I can still stay at Girton for the year.
Yes.
And
that's right.
And this is, I was in touch with
Roy Campbell.
With Roy Campbell. He came to Girton and stayed the night there.
Dear, that must have been a shock for him.
It must have been. And everybody was really very laughing their heads off, because he also took me to his house and invited me, you know. Yes. And he was so anti-women, wasn't he?
Well, he was very shy, I think, and very...
Yeah. He behaved beautifully to me, but then I think he fled he fled back to Scotland.
Well, he went to Stirling.
Yes.
Because I don't think he was very happy in England. He had most of his career in Scotland, but yes. I mean, he got a chair in the rising new universities like East Anglia. There were others, York and Lancaster, Sussex, etc. And when he had the opportunity of going back to Scotland, I think he was much happier.
I see, yes, yes.
Where, of course, we fell out with him slightly is that he enticed one of our best teachers, Neil Tranter, to go and join him as well, leaving another post to be filled.
I knew that wasn't a very good atmosphere.
It wasn't entirely pleasant, but he was the reason I came to Norwich too. Now, I wanted your view on the strength of the Economic History Department at East Anglia, because I think you came to East Anglia at a time where institutionally, you could argue, economic history was at its peak.
Well, I think so, because there were 10 or even 12 economic historians, and it was very impressive, because the lectures, the general lectures that we gave, were absolutely crowded.
Yes.
We had the big auditorium for the introductory course.
Yes, over 100 or something.
Yeah, no, yes, a couple of hundred sometimes. And there were so many seminars that all of us were busy teaching, you see.
Yes.
So it was, and for me, of course, it was particularly interesting because I could introduce new subjects.
Because you put on that wonderful course on the fascist states of Europe.
Yes.
The economic and social policies of the fascist states of Europe, which was a very popular course.
That was a popular course, yes. And then I put on the economic growth and Central and Eastern Europe, which was also, on the whole, these courses were a new...
Now, you're too polite to say, so I'm going to say it, Alice.
No, I don't know.
That you joined a department which was strong and was busy, but was rather parochial. There was a huge interest in British history, very little interest in the wider world, and that it was your, I think, achievement was to drag us kicking and screaming into a much more international comparative arena. Well, and I will instance some of these things. First of all, the wonderful exchange with Hamburg, which brought people like Harm Schroeter to Norwich.
That's
and
right.
Peter Lyth went to Hamburg and they did their PhDs in different
actually,
countries.
Verena and Harm Schroeter came a year to... Imagine, these two were the top students in Germany.
Yes.
They got a scholarship from the German academic center, the German academic center, that they could go to any university in the world for 1 year. And they chose Norwich and me. They stayed with us a year.
Well, this is,
And I got them involved in this research project on multinational companies.
indeed, and of course his career has blossomed since then. And,
Oh,
and
yes.
I think his own approach, which has been on an international...
You mean Schroeder's?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, oh,
I
yes.
think it owed a lot to, in fact, emulating you. He was impressed with your...
Well,
way
yes,
of-
he was interested
He
in
was,
that sort
he
of
was.
thing. And yeah.
then your other achievement, amazing achievement, this is a man who was a godlike figure at one time, who would never travel to a congress unless the organisers agreed to pay first-class travel fare.
Alfred
D.
Chandler.
Chandler Jr.
Yeah.
And you got him to come to Norwich, which is
Well,
amazing.
It was the conference on
Business and was-
business and business and economic
Of large-scale
of
corporations, I think.
large-scale corporations. Multinational enterprise started with the international conference. That was 78, wasn't it, in Norwich, to which Alfred Chandler, who was the leading,
Yeah.
well, he was beginning to be the leading
Yes,
man. Yeah,
that's right.
In
Business
in
history.
business history, and he we published the results of that conference and prepared. And I was then asked by the Economic History Society to represent them in preparation of the Congress in Bern in
Yes.
1985.
Yeah. 6.
1986.
Yeah, because I was there this time.
Yeah, there. Okay.
It was 86.
Yeah, 86. But up to leading up to it, there were and
pre-conferences and so on.
And there were 3 of us.
Yes.
From the GDR, it was Helga Nussbaum. It was Levi Le Boyer, who was
From
the
Paris,
representative of the International Committee, and me representing the Economic History Society, as the economic history of Britain. And we prepared the session on multinational companies, where we of course had Chandler, but a number of leading economic historians from all over the world, actually, because it ranged really internationally.
Yes, it was a great success, wasn't it?
And
CUP books were written.
two volumes of the books came out by CUP. We actually brought them along, well, one of them along, and they had several editions. They were a big success.
Including paperback and also translated into other editions. Including Japanese, of course.
Yes. They asked me whether I want to proofread it.
You declined, I imagine.
Yeah.
So then the next one was the role of banks, the bank industry project. That was again another successful thing that led to
the bank industry project was really in connection, you see, that was just before I was pensioned off in Norwich. I suddenly got a letter from Uppsala University.
Which is a big centre of economic history in Sweden.
Yeah, at that time, asked that they want me to come and accept an honorary doctorate from Uppsala University, and this actually was was because they had a very large research project. They had done a very large research project on the Kreuger match industry, which was an international cartel, an international,
Yes.
multinational
Yeah.
company. Actually, he committed suicide
Yes.
when the whole thing collapsed. And they gave me this doctorate because they had adapted and adopted the methodology
right.
of my book,
Ah.
Foreign Investment. That is international investment in Czechoslovakia.
Slovakia, yes.
And I wanted to tell you the story when I came to England. And I was already got the job. I was still in Girton. I already got the job at Norwich. And I was invited to give a paper at LSE.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now I have been thinking who ran the economic history department at LSE at that time, but Donald Coleman was there, but he wasn't the head of it.
No.
The head invited me, but
Could it have been Jack Fisher, maybe?
no, it was another one.
I don't know.
No, then that wasn't important. I was invited, and there was Donald Coleman and Charlotte Eriksson was
Yes,
there. Yeah,
yes.
and we had lunch.
You both came to Cambridge.
Yes, we had lunch there before the talk.
Yes.
And Donald said to me, "Well, what are you going to talk about?" And I said, "Well, I was doing my book at the time. I'm going to talk about foreign investment in Czechoslovakia, and particularly about British investment in Czechoslovakia." And he said, "Oh, that'll be a very short talk." As there wasn't any, you see. And surprise, surprise, it was the greatest investor in Czechoslovak industry. You see. I was going to tell you this story. Well, when
Yes, you could be blunt, couldn't you,
yeah,
Donald?
but
Yes.
when Donald then came to Cambridge, we got very
Yeah, of
well. We
course,
were
of
very,
course.
very friendly.
Close, yes,
we went
exactly.
to see him, and
It's a nice story, though. I like
Yeah.
the story. Anyway, we must move on to the role of banks
yeah, the role of banks.
and the bank industry project, which had something to do with Uppsala, because I remember going to a
but
launching congress.
Yeah, the
there.
point is that since they gave me a PhD, you
yeah.
see, and it was such a wonderful ceremony, I thought I ought to do something for them, you see. So I said, why don't we do a research project together? And I was already thinking of a bank and industry, and as they had done, had a group of researchers, we thought out that they would join this research project. On the one hand, comparing northern European states' banking and industry problems,
Yes.
and we had Norway.
Yes.
Norway, Denmark,
Denmark and
and
Sweden.
and Central
Central
European
Asia,
countries,
yes.
which I could sort of
Yes.
organize together. And this is how we
How
got
it
this
was-
launching conference, and
yes,
where then all
yes.
these books came
At
from,
Uppsala,
and
I
conferences
remember.
and so on. Yes.
And
Yes,
again, that led to a number of books.
but that was then after 85, and I was supposed to go to be pensioned off. But
Well, it was the law then. I mean, I
I
think
know.
they've relaxed it recently.
well, I was 65.
I know, but now
Yeah.
they're trying to. You don't have to go now if you don't want to.
I see. Well, anyway, it was lucky.
But then you did. I'm
because,
afraid you did.
Well, I did. But the
'cause you
lucky
had to.
thing was that Nicholas and I were invited for the year 85-86 for a guest professorship at Vienna University.
Right.
And this sort of
Was important.
was very important, I think, for both of us, because Nicholas then became an honorary professor of the university, Technical University of Vienna. And I was sort of adopted by the economic and social historians, started teaching there. Not only that year, they re-invited me.
Right.
And by 91 or so, I got an honorary doctorate there. But I also started research projects
Yes.
there. And I got, first of all, you invited me,
Yes,
and
I
that
did.
was most important. And you actually saved my academic life by saying, well, why don't you come and suggest a research project at LSE through the Business History Unit. And I had this wonderful support from your administration.
Yes, they were
They,
good,
they
weren't they?
were very good.
Yes, Gus Stewart.
Better than they were at Norwich, you know. But in Norwich they were helpful too.
Well, they had
They got the money, you see, and
they had a dedicated department at LSE
Yeah.
because it was very research led.
Yes.
We could exploit that economy of scale and have a
Yes.
research division
Yes. And
dedicated to supporting,
yeah.
so that you could concentrate on the scholarship, and they would do all the rest
They
because it was
did.
very bureaucratic.
Yeah, they did, and I mean, I did drafts. I looked at some of the material. I have the files. I still have the files. I was amazed.
Yes.
And well, banking and industry. I thought I would just summarize
Yes,
this
please.
sort of what areas I got the economic historians of these three northern states.
Yes.
And after '89, I was able to get the Czechs and
Yes.
the Slovaks.
Oh, yes.
And,
To bring
and the
them back in-
Hungarians.
to bring them back
bring
into
them
it.
back into
Yeah.
it. Because, and I think I ought to say this, because we haven't heard of any other case after the sort of so-called Velvet Revolution, which was the change of the change from the communist regime
Yes.
to the Václav Havel and
Yes,
and
yes.
the sort of more democratic regime. Not that we think that Václav Havel dealt very badly with Dubček at this stage. Dubček was the one who was
Yes.
standing up for a more democratic system.
Yes, he was.
And he was sidelined by Havel.
Yes.
And in the end, he was killed in a car accident. You see, these people were very isolated
Yes.
from the West.
Yes.
And I got them into these research projects, and they were invited to come to conferences and so
That's
on,
right.
and to publish and so on. And this widened sort of the comparative approach
Yes,
in
indeed.
banking and industry. That was the one sort of, and then also the banking and industry. I think it was the first really big research project that looked at bank loans to industries
Yes.
and long-term loans and the industrial complex of the banks.
Yeah, the bank's concerns.
Concerns
Yeah.
in an international comparison.
Yes, yes, indeed, I
And this
think
is
it
what
was.
we did.
Yes, yes.
In that, and the third area was then to look at the network of bank directors
yes,
and directors of
interlocking
companies,
directorship.
interlocking, but not only these. But what did it mean for the economy?
Yes, yes.
Because it's just to say he was there and there and
No,
there and
you
there.
have
that
to
doesn't-
show some
You have to show
cause, yeah.
some connection.
Indeed.
Yes. So these were sort of the bank and industry, which was based on your business history unit, actually.
Well, it went much wider, I think.
But it
I
was
mean,
working
it
from
was stationed there temporarily, and
Yeah, but I
it
know,
took off
but-
and went in many directions,
Yeah,
of course.
and naturally, this was the beginning of a very large project that was then carried on with money from the Austrian Ministry
right.
of Science and Research. So I put these two monies together. You
Yes,
see,
no,
and could do a lot of things.
Well, and we had many books, and including the Universal Banking book, which, of course,
Yes, of course.
I was editing
Yes,
with
which-
you.
Yes,
Well,
of
you
course.
did most of it, but anyway.
No,
I was involved in that one anyway.
You were, definitely.
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
And of course, that began my links with Austria and Vienna and people that I met
right.
there. And
Yes. Yes, and I was always re-invited to Austria until '98.
Yes.
Well, actually, I looked this up. My last guest professorship was 2004, actually,
yes.
which is I was amazed. The point is that from 98 to 2003, 1990 2003, I was a member of the commission
Yes.
of inquiry into the expropriation of property during the Nazi regime in Austria between 38 and 45.
Right.
Not only Jewish, but naturally the most of it was Jewish
Jewish,
property and Jewish lives, but the persecution of gypsies, the persecution of homosexuals, the persecution naturally of resistance fighters, all that came into also the slave workers.
So you were the commission was charged with investigating it,
and at the same time investigating the crimes of this Nazi regime, but at the same time looking after 45, how did Austria behave
yes,
in restitution,
right,
and sort of admitting guilt as well, that they were not the first victim
Yes.
of fascism,
Yes.
which they did pronounce
yes,
after 45, you see.
yes, because I mean the
Because-
Anschluss is still a curious
Yeah,
affair.
well, yes, and the Austrians did this very cleverly, because being in 1943, it was in Moscow. It was decided, or it was agreed that Austria should be recognized as the first victim of fascism because the German army invaded, you
Yes.
see. But it was, of course, welcomed with open arms, but still
by a considerable
by
part
a
of the
considerable
population.
part of the population, not by everyone, but quite a lot. But, and that was in addition to this 1943 judgment.
Yes,
But they have certain moral
yes,
responsibility.
indeed.
But the Austrians forgot about the moral responsibility. They divided the Nazis into active Nazis and passive ones who simply joined the Nazi party and didn't do any harm, you see. So, yeah, this is
Yes.
what they did in order to get the vote, you see.
Dear.
And the Social Democratic Party got quite a lot of votes, and the Conservative Party also.
So post-war governments in Austria
They
had quite a few ex-Nazis in there.
well, not the government as such,
Well,
but the electorate,
yeah.
and as the well, actually there was a Nazi in Kreisky's government, yeah, and yeah, there was an ex-Nazi and
Yes, because I mean, if they
prominent
took
one,
they
yeah.
took a,
Yeah.
I mean,
So definitely, and they were everywhere, and naturally this put the brake on
Yes, yes.
on restitution.
yes.
yeah.
So this commission was quite important. Really.
Very important,
Yes.
and the result was 49 books.
Yes,
There were about 160 historians and
working on
and,
it. Yeah.
and
And
lawyers
you were
working.
presiding over this, Alice.
I was not.
Were you not?
No, I was not the president.
Well, you were a member of the
I
commission.
was a member of the
You
commission.
weren't managing all these
No,
people.
I was an expert.
Thank God for that. Then.
No, heaven's sake. It was a commission of the Austrian government, but that had complete freedom, and we had, each of us got a statement from the government
Right.
that the
To
government
support your-
would not interfere
Right. In the
in the
judgments of-
judgments, neither in
Or the writing of it.
or the writing. There was a lot of money, and 160 people were doing research projects.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah,
though.
well, you see, they went to Washington because
right.
there
Oh, yes,
was
of
the
course.
material.
Yeah.
In Moscow, there was a lot of material
yes.
because the
And in Germany, of course.
the armies had taken the archives
Oh,
with them.
yes.
The American army took
Yes.
German archives.
And so
the
did the
Russian army
Russians,
took
yes.
Austrian and German archives, and so one had to send people there as well.
Yes.
And the archives all over the place, in Italy and so on. Well, 49 books and a very big report
Yes.
to the government.
Right.
The point is, what was the result?
Yes.
The result was that one began with restitution, but one tried to prolong, and quite a lot of people were naturally dying
Yes,
off.
of course. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, I know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's your view of how things have gone in
Very
economic history?
very disappointing, because it was such a robust discipline when we were in Norwich.
That's right.
And even some years afterwards. But I think it gave way to business history. I mean, you had your business history unit. I don't know how you feel about it, but business history was directed into actual business practice.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And not the theory and
No.
and the history and the social background to it, which we did in
That's
our
right.
lectures,
Yes, I
and
think,
we
yes.
tried to put the economic development into the historical background, you see,
Yes.
or as a real history.
Well, I was going to ask you about cleometrics because that was once popular.
Yes, I've got. Yes, I got even a note on this.
Oh, good.
You see, because there are two things. The first of all, also this cleometrics. This was Vogel and Engelmann.
Well, they were some of
Yeah.
the path breakers
The
in the
path
subject.
breakers, yes, they actually, and I was very much against this. They actually said that anything that you cannot put down in figures and in statistics is not analyzable.
Yes.
Is that the word right?
Yes.
Analyzable.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah. You cannot.
Yes,
You
they were
see,
wrong,
and
of
that's
course.
no good. Naturally, they were wrong. And I remember Vogel coming to Cambridge, giving a lecture that was at the height of things. You were there with me, weren't you, when he gave this lecture? And a lot of people came, not always a lot of people came to that. And he started with doing figures on the blackboard and saying a few words to it, and figures and figures and figures. And I tell you, he fell through. There wasn't much applause for him, and there weren't many questions. People were glad to get rid of him. You know, and
Well,
that's how I remember it. Yeah.
I think this is to me. You know, when you're right, we enjoyed some of the sort of golden period of economic history in the society when a lot of students wanted to study it.
Yes.
There was a tension, I think. Cleometrics, I think, did have some interesting things to offer.
Of course.
And Vogel and Engelmann on the role of the railroads. How important was slavery? Was it a good or a bad thing?
Yeah.
They provided a fresh approach, but
America without railways.
yes,
The railways that go across the mountains.
yes,
you know,
with
and
waterways,
across the seas,
yes, with waterways. But I think the difficulty was they created a tension in the subject that in order to really get the best out of cleometrics, you had to be a very literate economist or very numerate economist.
Yeah, numerate. That's
You
the
had to
point,
be able
yeah.
to be familiar with basic econometrics. And this created a tension in the subject because it threatened to confine the number of students equipped to do it. and threatened to make it a minority activity. At the same time, and you were there, of course, at East Anglia when it happened, political science became very popular
Oh, yes.
among the students. And
Well, we did take politics into it.
we did,
Yeah,
but
but
they took quite a lot of our, they stole a lot of our thunder, I think, as they developed. And there was a period, particularly, I think, after the end of the Berlin Wall and so on, where they seemed to be able to answer all the questions that students wanted
Yes.
to ask. Now, I think, in 2009, because we can end on an upbeat note, I think it's changed.
You mean it's coming back?
I think it is. I think I see students of economic history more enthusiastic about it. I think the current monetary crisis, financial crisis, has led the media, but of course others too, to try and get hold of economic historians and say, and I'll give you an example, Alice. Mervyn King in the Bank of England
yes.
has appointed a historical researcher at the bank because he's saying we really must be sure that we learn from our crises. And what of course was appalling was that when the Bank of England turned to past crises, like the secondary banking crisis of 1972, they found that bank officials had destroyed most of the archives in error.
In error?
In error, yes, it wasn't deliberate.
Oh, I see, in
And
error.
the available archive is extremely thin. And so there is now a determination that they don't repeat these mistakes. But what I'm saying is I think our subject is coming back.
Well, that would be nice.
It is. I mean, because we have seen. I mean, another thing. I think you were at Helsinki. Didn't you feel that the Helsinki Congress was a greatly optimistic?
I think so. Yes. Yes.
Because
it was
even
very
though
good.
institutionally the subject has shrunk back to its origins almost, there are still
It was
those
very,
large
very
numbers of
lively,
people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, I ought to. I wanted to mention Barry Supple,
Yes,
actually,
please,
who
yes.
was, perhaps he can be put in somewhere,
Yes.
because he was very helpful with the Economic and Social Research Council.
Yes, indeed.
And he was very
And Leverhulme,
supportive.
of course, later.
And Leverhulme. And he supported me with those projects and got money for...
Well, he was one of the outstanding economic historians in our period, wasn't he?
Yes. There are quite a lot of people. I ought to have mentioned Michael Kayser.
Yes, of course.
Yes, and I want to go back to the beginning because I think I ought to have said this. I had it all prepared here. You see, most important to me from the beginning was Peter Matthias.
Yes.
He had a helping hand, and he held back, but he had suggestions, and he suggested to Michael Kayser, who was at St. Anthony's College.
Yes.
And I was trying to do Eastern Europe, and Peter Matthias told him about me and said that I have suggestions about research on Eastern Europe, you see. And he came to Cambridge to talk to me, and I designed for him, and not of course with him, a research project on economic growth in Eastern Europe in the 20th century, you see. And a funny story is he invited me then to come to the, what's that? Liberal Club, yes.
The National Liberal Club, yes.
In London.
Yes, I know.
And I came there with my project to talk to him. And the porter said, "Madam, what do you want?" And I said, "I want to see Michael Kayser." He says, "Well, women are not allowed, you see." I said, "Well, he has asked me to come, you see." So he got me into the sort of cloakroom. And said I should sort of, and then he set me into a little room,
Yes. Well out of the
well
way.
out of the way, that he will go and
Yes.
see about it, you see. And he actually fetched him, but he didn't take me in at all into this club.
You couldn't
we
go
stayed
in?
this, no. Well, I mean, I stayed in, there was a sort of area,
Sort of lobby. Yeah.
and there was this little room where I was sitting. I was so upset about this. You know.
I'm not
And I
surprised.
brought him this. Now, the end was,
Yes.
he got an enormous project,
Yes.
and I was involved in
Yeah.
this. But of course, fortunately, I got this job in East Anglia. Otherwise, I would have been stuck with this project. And I did this project.
And not able to go into the Liberal Club either.
Not only that, but I would have been sort of handmade. You know.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The point is that the result of this was, towards the end of the 80s, a 3-volume
Yes.
Oxford
Oh, yes.
University
Yes.
Press
Book.
book,
Yeah.
3 books on the
s-
economic history of Eastern
centred-
Europe.
Yes, that's right. A very important
Yeah.
publication.
And that was due to my
Your collaboration with Michael
with
Kaiser.
Michael Kaiser, but it was the idea of Peter Matthias.
Yes,
who,
he was a
who
great.
got me into
he
that.
was a great organizer,
Yeah,
was
that's
Peter.
really, yes.